Welcome to Film Phreeks. This is Justin Llewellyn.
And Eddie Williams.
And tonight we are going to be talking about a film that surprisingly came out here in 2018 that I actually was hearing a little bit about a year ago when it was first announced. And this is the film we're going to be discussing is Hellraiser Judgment, which is actually the 10th installment in the Hellraiser series. And this one is directed by a director named Gary Tunnicliffe. And now, for those of you who have been following our channel, we did a retrospective of the other Hellraiser films that you're welcome to check out, that we discuss all the films, including Revelations. And you're welcome to listen to that here on our channel and on here as well. And with this one actually kind of caught me off guard because I actually really didn't think they would probably be doing a Hellraiser for a while because they were in talks of doing a remake for the longest time back in like 2007. So over the last decade, they've been trying to get a chance to do a remake of it. But since that's still been in development, in order for Dimension...
And they also been trying to... for the longest time, also been trying to beg Doug Bradley to come back. Unfortunately, like Robert Englund and Freddy Krueger, Doug Bradley said that it's waited too long for him. He's done. Yeah,
and it's sad because he pretty much started the franchise and ended the franchise, well, at the 8 films, both and he was definitely the highlight of all those movies. But the original Hellraiser, to me, it still holds up as one of my favorite films, and you know, we've gone all
that, and Hellbound is actually my favorite.
Yeah, we've discussed all we have with the other Hellraiser films, but with this one, it actually got me curious because this one, with its history, was once again made as a way to keep the rights for Dimension Films. Because at the time when this film was pretty much being made, before it was about to be coming out, it had to pretty much be shelved for a while because of the stuff that happened with Harvey Weinstein. So they actually pushed the release back all the way up until recently as of this year.
Yeah, and not only that, again, even though this one, we'll get into more details, this is still following that trend where they're trying to keep rights out, so they pretty much, these Hellraisers are become more anthology.
Yeah. But
anything, because they're just basically taking more movie things and then putting them in movies. And this is also the second one without Doug Bradley himself. And this one is a bigger step up on a better pinhead than the fucking Sam's Choice we got in Revelations.
Yeah, definitely. And I can honestly say, upon seeing the film, this was actually quite a surprise for me. I can't believe I'm saying this, but...
It was a surprise, and it was, a better step up. I think it was better than 5 and 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah, now, if I'm going by the sequels, I'll say that it's probably my 6th favorite, because I still say Inferno by a little bit passes over this. Well, actually, quite a bit passes over this one, but I will say this is probably like the best sequel we've had since Inferno.
And now I will say the acting on the most part, on like the detectives and the people, I do find Inferno better on the acting aspect compared to this one. But I think overall, Hellraiser-ish, I think this one was better than Inferno.
Fair enough. Well, with this one, we get in the story. This one actually deals with something different that I haven't seen in a Hellraiser film, where it deals with a guy who's called the Auditor of this thing called the Stygian Inquisition, where it's basically, he's like a judge, and he's a guy who you see like in the trailers where he has like all these cut up areas on his face and stuff, and he wears sunglasses.
Yeah.
And he's basically a judge to determine how to,
like, they're playing like God, pretty much. Like, all these people who committed sins, which it confuses me because they're evil, and these people doing evil shit, they bring them to this house, and they play like that fucking piano thing you heard from Stephen King's It in 1990.
Yeah.
Do-do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do, and it makes them go on some kind of like rants or some shit where they fall days and wake up, and this motherfucker's up here judging them, and then like he has like these chicks that are kind of like all Cenobite-ish and stuff, and they're like jury, and you have some fucking fat dude eating some book.
Yeah, I guess he's supposed to represent the jury or something, I guess, and
yeah, he's mixed with the jury because he barfs in that thing, and like all the shit comes out, and the girls like look at the dude and tell the final verdict and stuff, and then he goes and he pretty much says, okay, now you have to be cleansed, and then he tortures them.
Yeah. And basically, this actually becomes pretty interesting because later on we get into this plot that deals with these detectives that are looking for this serial killer called the Preceptor, who's actually interesting because the murders that he's leaving are based on the Ten Commandments. Though, yep. We'll get into this later, that does remind me of a certain film that came out in the 90s that has a similar plot to this that I'll get into later. But one of the things that really, I can honestly say, like, to get my pros out of the way, like, I love the way that this film actually, like, puts a lot of emphasis on the way of expanding the universe of Hellraiser. Because in this one, we get something really unique where this guy who's like a judge or something, he's basically like a gatekeeper between the hell world and also this other world that we get introduced later that's basically like heaven, so to speak. Because
I thought the dude also, people don't know, that dude's also pretty much the new sidekick to Pinhead.
Yeah, he's also the director of the film.
Messenger type bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy who's in the film, the main guy, the judge, he's also the director of the movie.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about this movie, too, is that it deals with Pinhead in the film, who is, once again, played by a different actor, but the guy who played Pinhead, I thought, did a really outstanding job. In fact, the way that he actually comes across his voice, didn't it kind of give you kind of a Kylo Ren type of voice vibe?
Yeah, like he had a Kylo Ren, but the scary thing is, this motherfucker actually sounds like Doug Bradley.
Yeah.
Kind of. I'm like, whoa! And I will say, yes. Oh, big fucking step up. Oh my god, it's a big step up for that fucking chode from that fucking last one.
Yeah.
Holy shit. This dude actually was really good. I enjoyed him, and I hope he takes the realm completely since Doug Bradley is done. And I thought he did a phenomenal job. And it's funny because this is a different kind of Pinhead we've never seen, where we actually see him sitting on a throne like fucking Thanos.
Yeah, which I thought was pretty cool. And we also get to see some other...
Something totally different. And then they have like all these boxes. You know, the boxes are actually not really in the film that much, which was different.
Well,
they are towards like later on.
Yeah, they're still to summon.
I love the cinematography and how visually beautiful it was, and that especially on parts where they go that judge part and all that gruesome shit that goes down. That's my favorite part of the movie.
That is too, yeah. Especially the visual look. In a way, like, I know, I'll get into this later, but the look and everything, it does remind me reminiscent of a Nine Inch Nails music video. And that's something because the score also reminds me something that Nine Inch Nails would sound like. Which I thought was really interesting.
The score, there's this little hint. I don't know if it's directly the real, but it's kind of like homage to it. I did hear a split second in the very beginning. It sounded like the original fucking score.
It did.
Hellraiser.
Yeah, I think it was.
Because I think I heard that fucking one theme from the very first movie. I'm like, whoa, haven't heard that in a while.
But that's what I'm saying, and not just that, but I really like the way that we get it. Some of the most like brutalist shit that we come across too, like when we see the judge do all this like stuff to his victims and stuff. You see, like, this dude who's wearing, like, this weird gas mask and stuff, where he's, like, an executioner, and he starts, like, cutting that dude's, like guts out and shit, and then you have a later scene that actually...
He skins him.
Yeah, and then you see a later scene, he actually skins his whole body off, where he like, takes off his entire skin. I'm like, ugh!
Yeah, peels him and shit, dude. I mean, in that fucking part where that girl gets her dog shoved in her stomach.
Yeah, that was fucking sick.
I was like, oh my God.
Not just that, the worst scene was actually the part where this dude was having sex with these women, or these like women were like all over him in like a dream sequence and stuff, and they start pouring like this weird shit inside of his mouth, like it's candle wax or whatever. I was like, ugh.
Yeah, like it looks like spit.
Or like semen or some shit.
Ugh. Like loogies or some shit, and they do some weird fucking rituals and stuff, and and I guess again, Pinhead kind of plays like side until like he's not playing much in this until like you'll see a couple shots where he's talking to the whatever, and then you see him at the end.
Yeah, though I mean I guess
because this is where I get to my pros, even though.
Your
this
cons.
is where the whole detective thing, I start really kind of losing a little bit of interest in the movie, because this is where some of the bad acting starts.
Yeah, okay, so the other half of it deals with the detectives looking for the serial killer and stuff and everything, which is not is kind of similar to Inferno, like how they were pretty much looking for a similar serial killer. So it's almost like they were kind of remaking that film. But the reason why I had a problem, this is where I kind of get into my cons. The reason why I kind of had a problem with that is that it felt like every other generic police kind of thriller we saw. Especially, and this is the biggest one, it kind of pretty much rips off, Seven. If you've seen Seven, you've pretty much seen this film.
Yep.
Because this film basically has the same kind of premise where you have detectives looking for a killer who was killing his victims in the 7 Deadly Sins. Only this time, instead of 7 Deadly Sins, it's the 10 Commandments. But it's still, he leaves like a similar, similar writings on the walls and stuff and things like that. And hell, even the opening scene with the credits and everything is very reminiscent of Seven.
And another con I have, and this is where it really bothered me, if you pay attention to the movie, you actually tells you like 5 different times, you actually find out who the killer is at the end. And it was so fucking obvious. It was so fucking obvious. Yeah,
I guess that was actually one of the few parts that kind of got me, I guess. Well, keep in mind, I still watched the whole...
Get me, keep in mind, if the killer is killing people in 10 Commandments, which is a religious fuck, and there's only one person in this movie that keeps quoting Jesus, and it's the main fucking dude.
Well, true, yeah.
I mean, it was pretty fucking there. I'm like, wow, I already knew it.
Yeah. I hear you. There's
it's still a doable movie. Like, it was like nice to see a somewhat Hellraiser film. We haven't said that since fucking, well, I'm not much of a fan of Inferno, but I can see some of its pros. I haven't fully liked the Hellraiser film since Bloodline, or was it Bloodline?
Yeah, it was Bloodline. Yeah. I can see
1,
that.
2, and 3, and 4 I really enjoyed. I find 4 to be underrated.
Yeah, I do
and
too.
5, I'm just not much into that whole where they finally got rid of Pinhead, and then they did other stories. And then 5 was doable, I guess, forgettable. But 6 on up, they just kept getting bad.
Yeah.
Holy fuck, they got bad.
Yeah, they did. But also, one of the things I also really liked about this movie was how we also see that there's an angel of death in this, because there's a woman in this called Jophiel, who is basically the one that kind of intervenes with the situation in to help basically to give like a test, I guess, for the main guy, for the detective. And that later comes into play. Now we won't reveal anything, but basically it does have a cool twist that I really enjoyed, that it leads to, that I thought really got me. So I really enjoyed that aspect. But yeah, I really enjoyed the way that got to me, that whole thing with the woman. And,
yeah.
And now...
It was pretty cool. It was weird, though, seeing, 1, Pinhead kind of taking a little bit of orders, and then 2, how, like... Did it kind of feel weird seeing a lot of more, like, kind of semi-human people being around Pinhead?
Yeah, I guess you could say those were pretty much his slaves. I guess.
Yeah, slaves and stuff. I don't know. It was just weird.
Yeah,
something we don't really see.
But you know who's also in this film, right? Heather Langenkamp's also in this film as one.
Yeah,
as
I know. it's funny they have her like a big cast. I thought I was like, oh, cool, she's gonna play like something like semi role. She plays one little fucking 2-bit scene where she's letting them in this one place.
Yeah, I was like, huh?
And you put like it's like main starring Heather Langenkamp, 2 seconds.
Yeah. But
I was like, okay, that was it.
Yeah, but if I got to my other cons, I'll say too that the film also felt like it wasn't like it has your typical tropes that you see in like other type of Hellraiser films where they don't really like spend too much time with the Cenobites, or I'm sorry, well, I'll say that like no, never mind, scratch that. The film also does seem like it suffers from that cheap look that it's going for too, because once again it is kind of under budget, so there are some, you can tell that the film is very shot cheap, but it's
yeah, it is. Even though it's got like it was weird because the very beginning where like the shit with the judge and the opening credit and all that, it actually looks really clear cut. But then when the detectives come, it looks like kind of like similar to what Saw 3D looked like.
Yeah, at least in some parts, but
I'm like, whoa.
But there
talk about big change there on the fucking camera.
Yeah, but other than that though, I mean,
hey, didn't you also find that one fucking detective dude was like really bad at acting?
Yeah, the brother, I'll say the brother and the other girl were pretty bad, but the worst was the wife in the film, who's the main detective's wife.
Was fucking really. I mean, this is a film that's got some bad acting, but they should have put her ass in Day of the Dead Flatline.
You're right. Yeah, she was pretty bad, but I mean, there's more we can go into detail. Yeah, there's more I can go into detail.
Anybody's going to correct me and say it's Bloodline. No, it's Flatline.
Yeah, no, there's only one Bloodline, and that's Hellraiser Bloodline.
Exactly.
All right, but other than that, I mean, there's more I can go into detail, but that's kind of really how I kind of feel about it. So, I mean, there's one more we can go into detail with, but I actually don't want to spoil it for those of you who are kind of curious with it, because it's actually one that I actually do kind of recommend checking out.
Yeah,
especially,
it's not too bad. It's a worth a check out.
Yeah, I mean, if you really like the other Hellraiser, like the old Hellraiser films, I think you might probably give this one the benefit of the doubt, because it does at least seem like they put a lot more effort into this one than that really awful the last 4 or 5 that they done pretty much.
Revelation, god damn.
Well, I'd say even the last 3 of them. Yeah, I'd say the last from 6 to the last one that they pretty much weren't even trying anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really do think I think you probably might get a kick out of it, at least on some of the gore aspects too. This is actually one of those few films that we won't go into detail, but it actually kind of sets it up for a sequel that I'm actually kind of curious about. So I actually wouldn't mind to see them do another one like this.
Yeah. So
with that being said, with all the things that I've pretty much gone over, I'm going to probably give the film maybe a, if I went with like a high, I'd probably give like a high average Joe.
Okay. See, I'd go very low if I had to. Average Joe in the Film Phreeks meter.
Fair enough. Well, for those of you who have also checked out who've also seen Hellraiser Judgment and the other Hellraiser films, let us know in the comments below of what you thought about it. And if you like what you see here, you can feel free to like and subscribe to our channel and check out some other reviews on our website at filmphreaks.com, and we'll be seeing you in our next review. We'll see you later.
All right, later.